Couch Co-op! Hello, Couch Co-opers, Couch Potatoes, and Couch Codependents. This is the 177th Couch Co-op show, the greatest video game show in the world. We are a group of close friends sharing our love of gaming with you. I'm Ian, and it's a skeleton crew tonight. Dave is at home being a parent, and Jared just had his second baby, so congrats to Jared.
Dude.
Anyway, I'm here with Aaron.
Yes.
And Scott.
Yeah.
Remember, you can be a part of the conversation by leaving comments and questions on Twitbook, Instaface, and Gramter at Couch Co-op Shows, all one word.
No hyphen.
You can find our podcasts wherever they are sold, or just go to couchcoopshow.com. Also, try following us on twitch.tv/The Couch Co-op Show. We stream our show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, like we are right now.
Live.
And I don't know, we are set up in a live in a new location. We are at Rose City Games studio, and joining us on the podcast this evening is Will Lewis. Thank you for being on the show.
That is my name.
Welcome.
And thank you for having us in your home. I
Yeah,
guess.
for sure.
Home
I was
away from
having
home.
drinks, so.
Home away from home, I guess maybe.
Yes.
How much time do you spend here, you think?
Ooh. Yeah, definitely home away from home territory.
So yeah, we have Will on to talk about his studio, his other endeavors, his new game that just came out, The World Next Door, and so that's basically what this episode's all about. So one thing we like to start out on the show, the first thing we like to do is kind of get to know you as a gamer and kind of where did you start? Who introduced you to video games? What was that recollection, that moment?
Yeah, I would say that my cousin Jamie introduced me to games when we were playing Kirby's Adventure on the NES. Yes. Thematically enough, she's actually in Japan right now, and she was bragging about going to the Kirby Cafe. So
What?
Yeah.
They have a cafe for everything now.
They do.
And I want some.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not like an egg from like today, because she gets back like in a couple days, but maybe not that.
And then in your case, what was it about video games? I mean, obviously you become a game developer. So what was it about video games to you?
So I also grew up in the woods in Oregon City. My dad was a Finnish carpenter. And
Dude, I also grew up in Oregon City.
All right, hey, there we go.
Class of '96. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not gonna say my age.
Okay.
That makes two of us.
Maple Lane Road, if you know it. And my parents had some property and stuff like that. My dad was a Finnish carpenter, and I always liked Disney's Aladdin, and I watched King Kong and Nightmare Before Christmas religiously when I was 6. And he would make me my dad would make me wooden swords, and I'd go out and chop down blackberry bushes and all that kind of thing. And I don't know if that contributed to anything. I think I just had a predisposition to watching fun fantasy stuff.
Right.
But being able to see games visualize that and have some input and all that kind of thing. I mean, Kirby's Dream Land was a really, really good one for that, because the colors are so amazing and all the characters are really cute and fun, and you're able to be lots of things and all that kind of thing. So I don't know. That's all I'll say about that.
All right. And then the difficult question that we like
Yeah.
to ask is
All right.
what is your favorite game of all time?
Oh, I love shutting that question down. Yeah, people always ask me that question. A lot of people don't know that that's the hardest question I answer. So usually I go over what's some of my favorite stuff right now.
Right.
That's
Right.
my answer. I've been getting real investigative lately. Playing a lot of Phoenix Wright.
Mm-hmm.
That re-release that came out on Switch.
The Switch,
the
right.
remaster.
Looks sharp.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Take that,
There's not, but there's not that that one game that just you'll always go back to, or
I mean, one argument I'll usually stand by is that Donkey Kong Country 2 is probably one of the best platformers in existence.
I agree.
It learned from the first one. The third one went off the rails. It's got concepts of bonus stages and secrets and tricks and badass cast of enemies and stuff. Oh yeah, can I swear?
oh yeah, you can totally swear.
Okay.
Totally.
Swear up.
Heck yeah. And different characters, they did the perfect iteration of level to level. You're using the exact same mechanics, but they do one little tweak and it's different. And then hey, later you do another little tweak, but it's a totally different.
Right.
Minecarts where you're jumping out of them versus you jump with the minecart, all that kind of stuff. So I will definitely, argue that that's one of the best like
All right.
platformers of all time.
Not that we promote console wars here, but were you a Nintendo kid then? Basically,
I was a Nintendo kid. It's only about like 2.5 years ago that people introduced themselves as like Sega kids, and I was like, okay, I'm down with that. You know, it's fine. I'm just a Nintendo kid.
Well, how crazy it is that you have a game on a Nintendo console.
Right? Pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
Is that kind of unreal in this sense?
It's really it's unreal in that way. But we used Unity.
Oh.
Developer joke. Oh. But one thing I'm really proud about with The World Next Door is that it definitely feels like it's like, you know, a 4 to 6 hour experience. It's got a good meld of like character exploration and like puzzle combat, and it just feels like something that's a little higher fidelity version of something that would have come out on Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance. And I think that's where my like awe comes from with regard to being on a Switch platform, a Nintendo platform, the Switch.
Right.
Is that it feels like it was always made to be a Nintendo game, and that is really cool.
Cool, man. You guys have anything?
Yeah, the colors too. It just felt at home.
Right.
I think with Corey, I compared to Paladin's Quest, a
Uh-huh.
RPG for Super Nintendo that
Totally.
used the bright pinks and blues and stuff like that, and it just felt at home playing it on like a Nintendo console.
Totally.
For sure.
Thank you.
So then, you know, as a lover of video games, what was the decision then? At what point did you decide that you wanted to make games for a living, or that was something you wanted to
Kinda like
pursue?
always.
Always.
Like since it's super cool. I got like really hyped up. Like I'd never get hyped up about this kind of stuff, but I got super hyped up that the Game Boy 30-year anniversary was yesterday, and I was like, whenever I saw one of those tweets pass by, I was just like, yeah. And like normally I'm not like that. I'm not like, oh yeah, celebrate this celebrity or anything like that. But I just got like really into the Game Boy, and I was not allowed to have a like console at home growing up, but I had a Game Boy and I have a ton of games and all that kind of thing. Donkey Kong, you know, I tout Donkey Kong Country 2 is the better one, and Donkey Kong Land, the soundtrack is fun in the way that they interpreted that, but like not a great game.
It's funny how we've had a couple other guests, not as highbrow as you.
Oh.
You're our highest of brows.
You're like our first real legit developer on the show. But they've said that like how they weren't allowed to have a console at home. You know, it's kind of funny. And then I don't know, it's just interesting to me. And I think all of us probably always had consoles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I went over to a friend's house. I guess you just want it more, and then you're like, that's how you make a game studio. You have to
Right.
be deprived.
Yeah, no, my parents got divorced, and we instantly got Nintendos at each house. You know, it's that one of those things. You know,
2 save files.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you get into games. What was that journey like for you? Like, because there's a lot of people that want to get into video game development. Like, for you, what was that road like?
I moved within the last like 4 months, and it was that's probably the first time in like 4 or 5 years that I've gone through like all of my old sketchbooks from when I was like really little, or you know, around the time that I
kept
was.
all mine too. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, totally.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Parents or anybody who's like, if you're ever thinking about getting rid of your old artwork, do not do it. Like, or if you're making it like date everything, like that stuff is super rewarding, and it's really cool to know where you come from. And also, if you want to make the RPG that you designed in 7th grade as a Kickstarter gimmick, like that's the only way to do it. Yeah, looking through all that kind of stuff, it's super clear that I was mega inspired by like Donkey Kong Country and Super Metroid and Punch Out and Kirby's Adventure and all that kind of stuff. And I had always been interested in that, just kind of always. Like, I'd always collected Pokemon cards, and then when Pokemon Trading Card Game came out for Game Boys, like, yep.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just like Yu-Gi-Oh,
But-
Aaron.
Oh, yes. Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh. But I always will have a soft spot for Nintendo, for
Mhm.
Pokemon.
Yes, for sure.
There's
But yeah,
a
there's-
reason I'm on this side of the table. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
that far. Yeah, I mean, it was a long progression of really, really loving that stuff. And like one of my like high school senior project was looking at the marketing and like production elements of how to actually, put money forward and get a product back for a tabletop game and all those other kinds of things. So with college was actually an interesting time because I wanted to go into game stuff, but it was really hard because I also wanted to stick around Portland, and there's just not a lot of outlets for that around here. So I wanted to instead, I pursued animation and film and started organizing community groups for those, and then was like, let's not do this. Let's do games instead. I'm a community organizer.
And then is that how you formed?
That's how Pig Squad started. Yeah, I was like, community organizing is subject matter agnostic. So let's instead make something for games. And then I founded Pig Squad. I thought, I love art and writing, music, animation, all these kinds of things, but I don't know anything about how to code and tutorials. I just can't handle it. Like there's so many small little either mistypes in someone else's tutorial or something that I accidentally don't interpret correctly, and you do the same thing over and over again and it just doesn't work, and you either quit or like ask for some help or finally you get it one time. And I just thought like, there's probably a lot of people in a lot of different fields that feel the same way. Right. So let's start a group of people that can do that together.
So I think is that how you met Will through?
Yeah, it was somewhere in Northeast Portland, and my friend M had like worked with you guys for a bit, and I was just like, I'm gonna start going to all of these because like it's a reason to just try out stuff that's still in progress. I remember there's like a really weird version of Tetris where you can individually move the pieces wherever you want. It was like stuff that I've never heard or seen before, and I now have like a business card or a sticker or something like that I can go back home and look these things up. So yeah, I think that was like 4 years ago that I think I first.
Is that BetaCon?
No, not even a con.
Before that,
yeah, it was like before that. Just some, I don't know, Breakside Brewery or something. We had the upstairs reserved, but yeah, it's also like free food and drinks. So it's like, I can get down with this. Yeah, video games and beers and stuff.
As much as people like video games, you got to bring the beers and the snacks.
The city for that.
So officially, what is like kind of the mission of Pig Squad? What is the?
When people ask me what Pig Squad is, the best term that I only came up with, I was like going over in my head for the first 3 years of Pig Squad. Pig Squad's 8 years old as of this month. But the first like 3 years or something, I was just like, man, what is the elevator pitch? But only in the last like year and a half, 2 years. Did community platform kind of come up, and it's a really easy way to say it's a community platform for people who want to make games and want to help each other make games and make games together.
And so this is 2011, I guess.
2011.
Is what the website
October
said,
2011 was the first game jam that we hosted.
Right. Yeah. And so so what kind of games are you actually developing? Any type of game work at this time? What kind of stuff are you working on?
So personally, with Rose City Games, there's a chronological explanation for how Pig Squad, a nonprofit that everybody volunteers for, led to the founding of Rose City Games, which is my job that I make money at. But right now we are working on an update for The World Next Door that we're going to announce pretty soon. And then I'm working on another project that's completely unannounced that you probably heard me talking about over there while we were getting set up. And then we're working on another game that is unannounced and totally client or partner agnostic, which is kind of cool because we have complete creative freedom, and it's one of the first times that we've been able to acquire funding for something like that. It's really exciting. And then we're working on a publishing situation as well.
What are the rules with Pig Squad in relation to like if someone like you guys come up with a game or someone who comes has ideas with the game, like are you looking for games to develop from a studio standpoint at these things, or is it just more of a fun?
Yeah, not necessarily. Pig Squad is all volunteer. What that actually looks like is we have between 3 and 5 events every month where people come out and they'll share their games with each other and ask for feedback, or they will say, oh yeah, I met this person like 6 months ago and I've been seeing them monthly, and like we've been talking about making this game, like let's make this game happen, which a lot of time comes to fruition during a game jam. which is a typically a 48-hour make a game from start to finish
Right.
challenge. What is that, Nick?
Yeah, you
Okay.
guys had the college reserve for that. I think.
Yeah, we
That's-
did University of Portland, and we had done Art Institute of Portland
Yeah,
in
yeah.
previous years, but they had closed down since. But yeah,
How many people go to that? That's
we this most
a
recent year
really
we
intense
had
48 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
from nothing to
right.
playable game. Yeah.
Yeah, we had 160 people this past year, and we had 48 games made in 48 hours.
Dang.
And then last year we had 130 people, and I think like 32 games made or something like that in January. But we do 4 game jams a year because we also do summer slow jams, which instead of 48 hours to make a game, you have like 7 to 11 days.
Okay.
Instead,
Yeah.
we meet up and then we say, "Cool, let's get all hyped," and then bye. See you in 10 days. Come bring your game that you made.
It's vacation time.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta
pretty
slow it
much.
down a bit, right?
But yeah, that's how Pig Squad works and what that kind of looks like.
But then you guys did kind of decide that you met people in this during this time, and that's what
Right.
formed Rose City.
Yeah, so Rose City was actually formed based on a game jam that I hosted that I was just like, yep, like this is a huge project and I'm going to use my game jam running experiences rather than Pig Squad's resources and all that kind of thing. So that formed Rose City Games, and now Rose City Games is a studio that makes games.
Right.
And Pig Squad doesn't make games, it helps other people make games.
Right.
So that's the difference.
So one thing I was looking at the Rose City, like kind of the projects that you guys have worked on. There's a lot of other stuff that's kind of more marketing or more
Sure.
like a lot of other stuff that isn't quite game development. What led you down that road? Is that just to pay the bills type of
Corey.
stuff? Oh, it's
Yeah, I mean, we started with the Cartoon Network Game Jam, and then we moved into a lot of different kind of odd jobs, for lack of a better term, where we were working on games that were VR or AR experiences at expos for straight up just client-provider relationship, or we were working on marketing plans for games, which was big in Corey's expertise, my co-founder. But over the last multiple years, we've been working with in much more of a partner relationship rather than a client relationship, where we are making original content that fits an IP desire or a goal with kind of presence in games or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, you guys run basically a dedicated VR room at Retro Game Expo.
Yes.
I like that. It's just nicely in the side, so you have plenty of room, because there's no way you'd be able to do that on the main floor.
No.
Yeah.
Not
Slap
the size.
someone
We've
upside the
done
head.
we've done single VR stations on the
Yeah.
main floor, but yeah.
So while you were working on those kind of other projects, was The World Next Door being worked on in the background at that time?
That
or,
kinda
or when did that happen? When
That
did,
kind of spun up quickly, like as it was probably a year and a half after starting those kind of odd job kind of territory that we moved into kind of full production of World Next Door. We were looking at the project scope as a whole right away. We were partnering with Viz Media, who does One Punch Man and Naruto and Sailor
Yeah.
Moon. They're the American distributor for a lot of anime and manga
Right.
that you may or may not know very well.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
know those.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
Viz does the good stuff.
yeah, they do
Yeah.
good stuff. Yeah. And we are working with them on kind of defining that games presence for what their, I guess, public relationship looks like with games. And the first answer to that question is, let's make a game.
Right.
So
Right.
that was from World Next Door's inception. That was part of the goal. And World Next Door was actually first devised at a game jam.
That's what I was going to ask you. How did that game come about?
Yeah, we actually hosted a game jam that was more of like an art and design jam that we kind of looked a little bit closer at like IP and very, very basic structures of gameplay. And we hosted it here, and we had 14 of our artist and designer friends come out and say, cool, we're making concepts based on these game ideas.
Right.
And because World Next Door was very anime-esque, we were like, cool, like if we want to talk about how Viz is in games, let's go forward with this idea that actually seems like it fits Viz's typical IP.
So then, if we talk a little more specifically about the game,
Mhm.
so one was the, what was the initial? What was that initial like the game pitch or idea that was on the table? What
Yeah.
is it different than was it? Or
Yeah,
has it always
definitely.
been pretty?
Yeah, the initial like mock-ups are literally like sprite art that has nothing to do with what the game looks like right now. And the initial concept was like a genre meld of dating sim and dungeon crawler. And Boyfriend Dungeon was not the inherent reason for us steering away from that. We were steering away from that direction anyways.
Right.
But that's it's similar to kind of the vibe that we were going for. But we were playing a lot of like Tetris Attack and Pokemon Puzzle League and stuff like that at the time, and we were looking at puzzle games and made the decision that games like that could be interpreted as match 3 or that have, you know, consumable puzzle mechanics might be a good idea for Viz's first game, because we are reaching out to a lot of anime fans who may not identify as gamers. It ended up being very different than anything I've ever seen before, and I've never heard anybody compare the regular puzzle combat of World Next Door to an existing game, which is really cool.
Right.
I think the last episode I had trouble like explaining. I'm like, it's puzzle.
It's
but
kind of
not
match 3,
quite,
but then the whole combat aspect of it, and it's interesting.
You're swapping runes, and when you find matches, you can cast them, but you're live on the board with your opponent, and that
actively avoiding, actively attacking.
Yeah, so it's very, very different. Ended up being much more, like I said, of a like Super Nintendo or Game Boy Advance game. Like I feel like it did evolve into a gamer's game kind of thing, which is really cool. But at the same time, it's inspired by that base of, you know, how do we make this approachable to anybody who has a remote familiarity with games?
Right.
And that's where the kind of like we wanted to look at tiles and puzzle and UI that showed things being highlighted and all those kinds of things.
And you guys did include the option of just like easy mode, just enjoy it. You don't have to really struggle on the puzzles,
right?
And I mean, for people who just want visual novel, here it is, and just throw an easy puzzle your way and you move on with the story. I like that.
Yeah,
Celeste was another game that I feel like it needed that. Like you're at the point where I just want to see how the game goes. So I did like at one point just like, all right, just this one stage I'm going to turn it off, and then like I'll go back to normal. But yeah, it's for people who I just want to see the rest of the story. I don't want to have to like stop playing because puzzle's so tricky.
Right. Yeah, assist mode is a huge trend in games right now, where it's just like my favorite example is in, you know, Mario Kart 8, big game.
Right.
You turn on bumpers, and Corey's 3-year-old can hit go and feel like they're playing. So it's like.
Yeah.
So what was the decision then to go from like sprites you were saying to move to the art style that the game is currently? Like what was that kind of progression?
So the very, very original game concept was we were kind of slowly coming up with concepts, and we thought, let's open this up to a larger crew, and that's when we had that kind of art and design jam here. And we gave that dungeon dating sim idea to our friend Lord Grizz. She's an Instagram artist that does lots of very, very painterly portraits, and she did the original concept design for these characters and said, oh, if I were to make a dungeon dating crawling sim, this is what it would look like. And that was one of the things that kind of sold it as like, oh, cool, this is what we're moving forward with.
No, I really like the art.
Yeah, it turned out really great. We had a lot of talented people on the project.
Can you tell us what was kind of the dating aspect of it?
Mm-hmm.
How much of that got,
Like
played
nothing.
around? That's not a lot of that.
Yeah, we never really like went hard into exploring that. That's probably where I would say that we didn't want it to be too visual novel. I would say like a JRPG narrative is presented in visual novel format in the game. And there's also the idea of, forming long-lasting relationships with characters. And one of the things we just had to look at was scope and how much time we had to make this game. And with the cast of characters that we developed, we decided that seeing more of these characters and forming relationships in between all of them was more important than spending our time allowing the main character to form super deep relationships with just a couple of them.
Right.
We wanted to show, because this was IP focused, we wanted to, we have a lot written up about what happened before the game and what happened after the game. There's a lot of stuff that happens at the end that leaves the game's story open to interpretation in case
Right.
we want to make a sequel or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that if we like
Mm.
did too much of the dating kind of thing.
Like we're gonna get
so-
some DLC or expand.
Well, we're working on that DLC right now, but we're announcing some of that kind of stuff soon.
Because there's definitely some characters that kind of, I don't want to spoil, but they kind of don't have no. It's kind of left. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't resolve
Yeah.
in the game.
For sure. You see him in the credits. That's one thing that was funny is that like you see so many people talking about how badass like the credits of this game are because they show a little bit of a spoiler towards the end or hint at what's coming next or something like that. And so many people were just like, "Well, where'd that character go?" And it's
Right.
just like it's very clear in the credits. Like, why are you gonna watch our game's credits?
Right,
It's
right.
funny, yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah. Where did I lost my train of thought? Oh, no. So how big was the team that worked on this game, and then kind of how long? Games take a long time
Yeah.
to make. I'm just curious for this particular indie game. It's about
Yeah.
about a 4 to 6 hour
Yeah,
game.
4 to 6 hour experience, and our dev cycle was I usually based on when we were concepting it versus when we were actually prototyping and all that kind of stuff. I usually say like between 15 and 18 months.
Okay.
And the collaborator question is difficult. Like when people ask me how many people are in Pig Squad, it's just like I usually go by how many people I met. But with World Next Door, it's probably at any given time we had between like 6 people on the project and 25 people on the
Right.
project because, lots of people doing contract work to make background elements or single animations or marketing materials or any of those kinds of things.
Was it? Obviously, creating a game, it must be difficult. But is there like any moment like this just like stands out that was very difficult for you guys? At any point?
Pivoting on design is always a challenge. With the projects that we've scoped in the past, moving forward, I want to give us a lot more time for either paper prototyping or playing around with a very, very, very simplified version of the game to say, cool, what makes this fun? We know that, but like maybe let's layer a couple small things on top of it before we go into full production with layering all the art on it or, deciding like maybe making a checklist of all the different things we can vary to make the game replayable rather than fun
Right.
after knowing that it's fun.
Right.
I saw the in progress of the Celestial Shrine of just
Mhm.
like concept art, and it actually still looked just fine with just the cartoon without all the shinies and the pretty little aspects. But yeah, like the final
Right.
version is still my wallpaper.
Mhm.
That I just like. It's beautiful. It's so well drawn and really captivates. This is the first dungeon in the game. Like this is definitely like a great first impression.
Mhm.
And how have you? I just beat it last night,
Uh-huh.
so I really enjoyed it. I'll just
Cool,
say that.
thank you.
Yeah. I played it on Switch. I know Scott got a code,
Steam,
but
yeah.
I bought it on Switch.
Mhm.
I wanted to play it on Switch, and it was a really
Thank
great
you.
experience. It's not my type of game. I'll be honest. It's not. And you are obviously going to be on the shows, and I wanted to be informed.
Totally.
But it was a really great game, and I really enjoyed it. It is not. For me personally, a little heavy on the dialogue. I'm not a
Mhm.
big visual novel type of guy, so
I'm a JRPG guy, so
yeah, I get that.
easy
I get
peasy.
that. I get that. But no, I really enjoyed the combat, and I like the art a lot. So
Cool, thank you.
Just to get that out there.
Yeah.
But
I guess I'll
go
kind
ahead.
of chime in. Yeah, I did not use Steam at all,
Mhm.
and now I'm a heavy hitter on Steam. Like it really like pole vaulted me like directly into the Steam world, and now I'm like exploring all the options of Steam and stuff like that.
A lot of
And,
stuff on there.
Yeah, to jump on that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna finish this game, but now I'm gonna like dabble in a few more indies. Like I'm basically like indie crazy now, and
Yeah.
a lot of the sales are insane. Like, the price on World Next Door is great. It's like perfect, and like for the length of it, it's got a lot. Like I'm on my second replay now, trying to get like that special like use everyone at least once, use your
Right.
friends once, which I saw was like 7% of the people who played it.
Yeah.
That's
It's good to get those achievements.
yeah, right. Just a full completion. But yeah, it means there's part of the story that I missed out on.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm now like going through and trying to do all the alternate paths.
Awesome.
It's
Cool.
worth the replay for sure.
So where I was going before is how has been the reception to the game for you? Like watching it, I follow you guys on Twitter and a lot of
Right.
fans, or like what has it just been for you?
Yeah, I mean, PAX West and East were really, really cool. Like PAX West is interesting in the Indie Mega booth because it's just like so packed in there, and people were really loving it. And we had a little bit of an updated demo at PAX East recently, and we actually released the game the first day of PAX East. So
that timing was perfect.
yeah, it's interesting.
Game
timing.
is out tomorrow. Come back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, buy it right now. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of positive feedback and a lot of love around just like, but also like it was interesting to see the skepticism of like, what is this game because of that new mechanic that I haven't seen before, and at the same time, it was really rewarding to do that work and say like, this is what the game is. Are you still interested? And they'd be like, yeah, I want to play it. And they sit down and play it and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy it right now. And we were giving pins out and stuff like that to people who either purchased a like Steam bundle that we had or showed us the game on their Switch or something like that. And it was really rewarding. It's wild to me to see people just be like, yeah, I'm going to buy it right now. And with price point and stuff like that, just like, oh yeah, $15? Because a lot of people are just used to AAA games or, you know, store feature stuff or stuff that their friends are talking about or anything like that. And that's one of the huge challenges of an indie team is getting that word out about making sure that people even know the game exists. And hearing from so many people that did not know about the game, but getting positive reception was really exciting.
Cool. I don't know if you can talk about this, but was there anything in the game that was cut that you wanted in the game but just couldn't, you just weren't able to get it in? Or
yeah, I mean, I would just say more. I think one of the things that we've been thinking about is just the idea of more side quests that looped back in to make your player avatar more powerful or anything like that. The new game that we were working on that I'm team lead on is way focused on making your player character have upgrades and all that kind of thing. The number one question people would ask me after playing the demo was, cool, this was super interesting, and I'm like, I like, you got to sell me just one more thing though. Like, how does it get different? Like, how does it get better, or how does it get harder, or any of those kinds of things? And everybody's first guess was, you get more powerful, right? Or like you get more things that you can do with runes or any of those kinds of things. And it's in that puzzle vein. It's much more that concept of like responding to different situations than leveling up your player avatar. Right. And I think that's one thing that I think is an interesting challenge, because it would have added so much time to our dev cycle to be able to balance all that stuff and say just like, yep, the earth rune, which doesn't exist, like what does it do? Is it fun to use? Like, just multiplies a couple of things, because you have to also consider how it works in relation to other rooms and other enemies and room types and where you are in the game and all those other kinds of things.
Cool. You guys have anything else you want to talk about on this game?
Yeah, I had a few notes. Yeah, I also want to know if anything was taken out. The market seemed like a lot was potentially going to happen later on. Like there's the arcade and stuff like that.
There was actually
I feel like there might have been maybe some thought on like making more rooms and stuff.
I feel like we got pretty far with regard to the overworld map and stuff like that. We feel really good about that. It was after we like made it and saw it that we were just like, oh man, I don't want to go into these places.
Missed opportunity.
Like we never really we didn't consider that up front. And then when we saw it, we were just like, ooh, I won't go in. We were actually talking about Global Game Jam, like spending some time. We were bug fixing instead, I think. But we were talking about making like a very, very, very short, like arcade game in a totally different style from the game that you
Pixels.
could just that you could just like play at the arcade. We ended up we were busy for some reason. I mean, I was running the event, so I couldn't do it. But there's small things like that.
Yeah.
We didn't really have any cut characters. The characters that were cut were for just design reasons and stuff like that, with regard to just like making sure that the IP was cohesive and everybody fit in this world and all that other kind of stuff. But a lot of feedback comes from like, cool, where does the story come next? And that was another thing that we didn't necessarily anticipate. We wanted to leave loose ends, but people were so hungry for more that they were they were just really wanting those loose ends, and
Right.
the whole crux of the game that you are June, a human girl trapped in Emrys,
Right.
and that you need to get home. We were like, yep, that's the main
Yeah,
plot and everything
yeah.
like that.
But what
there
about
were
the
more-
subplot?
Yeah. There's
going
a lot
on?
of subplots that are like,
The
you
whole
know,
reason she's stuck there.
yeah, those are like, yeah.
Read the comic.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Exactly.
oh, is
At least
that-
we got to do that. That was really, really cool to work with Viz and make work with their editorial team, which was really, really cool, and
Yeah.
make that.
And they
that
reference the game
prequel.
references the Horace Beer lighting
Yep.
his foot on fire, and like that's where it came as the
Mhm.
comic book.
I see.
Um,
I got to read the comic. I got it.
I did read the after
You don't
thing.
got
Like you guys posted the world of Emery's and the different characters you meet, the demons,
Mhm.
and the I like that. I'm not sure, was that all in the game itself?
The like kind of explanation of there's a lot of lore explanations that don't happen
Mhm.
in the actual game, but it was really cool to be able to have that lore backing everything up.
Yeah, I
So
read
that it was rules
little
for
extras.
how we went forward. Yeah, like I'm a huge fan of like Dark Souls lore and a lot of lore driven things, and it was neat to be able to explain like the ancient history, even down to like nature science of how Emrys works differently from Earth, and that actually makes an appearance in the character Rainy wants to do a report on Earth, and you're able to explain, the player doesn't know, but as June, you're able to explain to Rainy what happens with the two different worlds, and he goes, "Oh, thanks," and writes his report. But it was cool whether or not that stuff ended up in the actual game to have those rules in place and be able to say like, cool, like if we ever want to make, turn-based tactics set 200 years before the events of the game, like we're ready.
Prequel.
Like, yeah.
One thing that blew my mind was that the bosses used to be Emery's,
Uh-huh.
and it just says they turned into that. Is there more to that than just becoming evil? Because I mean, I loved all the character designs. Even the bosses' character art was like super cool. It was like the wolf who was all distorted and everything, and the Medusa with all arms and everywhere. I tried to screenshot that, and I was like, maybe she'll come back in our cinema. It's just that one shot.
Yep.
Like, all right, second playthrough, I finally captured the screenshot. But
That's a very clear answer to what got cut. Is we wanted to have like,
what made them? Yeah.
well, I was gonna say it wouldn't have been dialogue, but we wanted to have more shots of their full character art, but it just appears a couple of times. So the idea is that, long story short,
Yeah.
Earth has molten core, and electricity via Earth's natural systems is the
Right.
main source of power. And in Emrys, there's actually a magical core in the Earth, and there's no sun, but day and night is determined by the center of the core of the Earth or the world next door. Pulsating.
I see.
Pulsating in and out. So when it's technically, breathing out, the magic actually
Effects.
creates light in the atmosphere.
Okay.
And when it inhales, it all goes inside of
Interesting.
the sphere, and it's nighttime. The magic goes inside. But one of the things that is like some deep lore stuff is that it's very, very briefly mentioned, is that there's more magic in the shrines than on the outside world. I'm not going to say why here. And the idea of consumption of too much magic or use of too much magic or contact can kind of affect you mentally as well as physically to cause you to in the case of the
Horse,
first enemy you
wow.
see, you see have a hand growing out of your head,
Right.
all the hands growing out of her head or anything like that.
Mutations,
Yeah, and there's actually small subplots, extremely small subplots for every boss that explains who those bosses actually were.
Cool.
Nice.
Such as the first or Brescio, the second boss, the lava dude.
Mhm.
The forge shrine location used to be a forge, and he spent too much time down there and became the monster that he is, and spent more and more and more and more time down there. And yeah,
Any other like I definitely attributed the gate to Stargate. Looking at the symbols on it. Any other pop culture or anything that you guys kind of pulled a little bit from, or
there's a couple of anime references.
nice.
There's a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure line in it. It's a baseball. Oh, that's a baseball. Excuse me.
Interesting.
There's a couple of other anime references. The comic was originally designed in Vesper's side quest. The manga was designed to look a lot like the real Death Note comic in our real world, not Light Yagami's Earth. Yeah.
This is all going over my head.
Yeah. Death Note's good.
This side of the table, we're
There we go.
yeah.
Now we know where we stand, where we sit. There's two. I don't know why this ended up in there, but there's two Wizard of Oz references. I didn't write those
Ooh.
parts.
Ooh.
What?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, so second time through, I will be looking for these little
Yeah,
little
right.
tidbits. That's cool.
But yeah, couple of other small things. There's even a reference to like a couple of inside jokes that we just had with the team and with Lord Grizz, the character artist, and stuff like that. The pineapple pizza scene. That's a Lord Grizz thing. If you follow her and you see her Instagram stories, she's always mining for those good people that want pineapple on their pizza.
Yes.
I said
Big fan.
no. I said no. As
There
a
you go. Yeah.
As a Hawaiian.
Divisive.
As a Hawaiian, no. It's a negative. You mentioned you are working on an update,
Mhm.
and is it just like a fix or for fixes, or is it going to be some new content?
There's a couple small fixes, but there's going to be new content.
new content. So
I played a little.
Confirmed.
We'll be
at the,
announcing that.
confirmed.
recent Drink and Draw.
So
I played a little of the.
so if this game, it sounds like it's really been well received so far. If it gets beyond your expectations, will there be a sequel somewhere down the line?
That is one of our hopes.
All
Yes.
right, cool.
And then you already mentioned the other game you're working on that you're the lead on.
Mhm.
Can you tell us anything about that?
No,
No,
unfortunately,
nothing.
announced soon.
There is a
enough.
new game.
Yes, there's a new game.
Yay.
We're working with Viz on 3 different games.
Oh,
And,
wow.
This next one that I'm working on is the second of the 3. World Next Door being the first.
Can you tell us where in the development it's at?
It's going good.
It's going good.
Yeah.
All right. I
It's
won't
going
cry
good.
anymore.
It's exciting.
What kind of stuff do you guys play just in the studio while you're you must be trying other things, other games, other like ideas that you guys kind of, oh, that's cool, or are you just playing like just Dark Souls all day or something?
We haven't. I mean, that's my Dark Souls Dark Souls and Phoenix Wright are my just home games right now. My home team. But yeah, I mean, we do a lot of research focused on the types of games that we're making. So if we're making a roguelike with this specific top-down shooter style or whatever, then we'll play Nuclear Throne and Binding of Isaac and Runers and all these other games.
Right.
The other game that we're working on right now that's purely original to Rose City Games, we're looking at a lot of like digital card games. So we're researching a lot of just like making sure that everybody's on the same page more or less about all these card games, that you have an idea about like something that should be drawn from this card game, and you have an idea about this other card game, but this person hasn't played either but has
Right.
another idea to contribute, like staying on the same page in that way. But we're also doing a lot of like we're here in a co-working space with a VR company and a couple of other studios. So sometimes we'll have Super Smash Brothers nights, and sometimes we'll do Beat Saber and compete with each other and try to get that double S and a couple other things. So
How often are you guys just pitching new stuff to each other? Like all the time, or like do you like, no, we can't do this right now. Don't just. Shh.
I'm usually, myself and Corey as the producers are typically just like, yeah, we can't do that right now. Even though we have our own ideas, but we just don't tell anybody because we don't want to get everybody excited about something that may not be able to happen with the time that we have to be able
Right.
to finish these games.
But like let's say you came to the end of the World Next Door. Then do you have like a sit down, or do you already have the games, or do you have like a meeting? Like, oh, pitch your ideas, guys.
Basically, a lot of our work currently has come from either just kind of like inspiration from trends of indie games in general, or from just jamming at ideas of our own. We've never really seen another game and been like, we want to make this game kind
Right.
of thing. It's of course big time inspired by those kinds of things, but like with Tetris Attack being one of the games that we were playing a lot of when we were concepting World Next Door gameplay, like you see where that went. Like it's nothing like Tetris Attack. So that's kind of cool how that ends up. It's really nice to have Pig Squad there to be able to play test games and say, cool, is this fun? Is this not? Oh, are we actually sitting on something interesting that we should pursue? But there's also times where we're participating in game jams personally, and we don't bring it to work sometimes.
Right.
I haven't really talked about this much, but I made 9 games last year in my spare time, just like small prototypes and like mechanical, pursuals, which, probably won't end up becoming full games with Rose City Games, but we've referenced some of them in like a mini game that appears in this game, or as, oh yeah, let's take this one tiny little tidbit from that prototype and put it in this larger game we're making, or any of those kinds of things.
Do you have that kind of dream game you want to get to someday, and you haven't? No, are you just?
No, not necessarily. I'm not that hopeless MMO type. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of genres I want to explore. I think I would say, like, I mess with RPG Maker a whole lot, and I made another RPG Maker game for one of PixWad's game jams last year, and it would be really, really fun to find. I think it would be really fun to make a JRPG that went away from what a lot of people think is tedious about JRPGs, but still like stay as true as possible to the original medium. Like, there's not many games that do that. But I think that something like that mixed with like, monster collecting kind of stuff would be really fun in my personal opinion. Deck building stuff I really, really like, and I think it would be really fun to do that stuff. Yeah.
Cool. And then I just have some kind of, like, now that you have the studio in Portland, like, what has the culture been? You have Pig Squad, you have Rose City. What has it started any other kind of studio? I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I would just say that, like, I was just having a conversation with somebody earlier today about how Pig Squad is definitely a really good mix of professionals that have worked at AAA studios and hobbyists and students. And then with regard to skill set too, like, there's like pretty even mix of like artist, programmer, musician, and then a lot of other skill sets in there. And that's always kind of been the case. But I would say definitely that, like, within the last 3 years, because of what's kind of gotten off the ground, and because we really support with PixWad, like, people going out. Of course, we promote networking. Networking is kind of a dirty word. Like, it just sucks. So it's a lot more about relationship forming and placemaking and safe environments and everything like that. But because of that, it's been interesting to see more and more people get out of their shell and go to the big stuff like PAX or GDC. And we've just been having more and more people from Portland come out to those larger events to really put themselves out there, which is all just kind of like, it's all a big cycle of my PAX going ability enables me to feel more comfortable to say hi to this person on Twitter, and oh crap, I just met somebody that I've always wanted to work with, and they want to work with me. And there's like more and more people over the last like 2 or 3 years that are actually going very headlong into like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm actually going to form a studio, or I'm actually going to run a Kickstarter with the intention of this being my job for the next 3 years or something like that. And people have been getting better at it over the last couple of years. So that's really cool.
And what do you think of, like, I mean, of the game industry currently, how it is right now? How do you perceive it as, or you just kind of, you're this little indie studio and you're just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mostly my relationships with people in the kind of international game scene is a little bit more personal. But I'm curious as to how that stuff will change when we announce the game that I'm lead on right now. But otherwise, people typically know me for Pig Squad or the World Next Door right now. I think with regard to just kind of like an outlook on the scene in general, like, I definitely think it's flooded with regard to just like how many things are going on and how many games are coming out, and quality control and all that kind of stuff too. Like, I was very interested in seeing like what Switch let through the floodgates compared to the Wii U, and of course
everything.
I mean, not really. It's hard, but like, come on some of those. Like, there's that one game.
All those mobile games that like no one. Yeah.
Well, there was that one game that was like, it's probably up there right now as a game that's like discounted to 1 cent because
Yep.
it's 99% off because it's $1. And like everybody I talk to, the funnier one is when I talk to people like just around town or at an expo or anything like that, and I don't know them and they're not in the industry, and I mention, if I ever bring that up for whatever reason, they're just like, yeah, I just, you know, I just have a gaming system and I want to play stuff, and like, but I picked up this game and it just sucks, man. Like I've never played this game, the game this bad, and I'm just like, oh my god, like get out of here. Like there's so many ways in which like
Right.
people that know what they're doing can get out there. So that kind of stuff is interesting to me.
The lack of it's not cultivating. What are the word they use?
Curation.
No, to all the content to
Quality over quantity.
no, it's not, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
Real quick, they're saying there's some reverb
Is
on
there?
the Twitch feed. I mean, audio sounds fine, but I don't know what we can do.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Twitch stream. I apologize if you guys are having some issues with that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The audio will be fine. The podcast,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. We're still feeling out this whole Twitch thing. It's
That's
very
right.
new to us. The podcast has been going on for years. You guys have any other questions? I just wanna-
Well, I
What
was
weapon do you use in
wondering.
Dark Souls.
So I noticed that you
You're
have.
not playing Sekiro?
I was, and then I
you-
got bored of the like
I think
Endless-
everyone does that. They step
endless like sub bosses. I was just like, I don't care about quick time events that cover up what the character is doing, so I can't see how to respond. I'll get back to it. I'll beat it. I've committed.
Because
to
some
that.
people like love it
yeah,
in the camp, and
I'm
then some
whatever
people
about
don't.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Interrupted.
Aaron.
That's all right. Well, so I noticed that most developers generally stick to like one console. Like with this game, the World Next Door is Switch and Steam.
Mhm.
If let's say PlayStation caught on to the whole World Next Door and they offered you a contract, can you do that, or is it exclusively with Switch only and Steam?
We're exclusive for Switch for a timed interval.
Oh, okay.
That kind of stuff is also for indie game developers out there. Like that stuff is real. It's something big
Yeah.
time to consider. It's a way to, you know, our situation is different than everyone else's, but you could get money that way, or you could get extra marketing that way, or you could get, you know, advice on what release window to come out in or anything like that. So that's a big decision if you were to say, you know, this is going to be console exclusive for this.
Oh, okay.
So it is
It's
possible.
also a lot of work to do it. So
True.
to port.
True. But
So
it is
True.
possible you guys could go to PS4 or Xbox at some point. Yeah. All right. Cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Well, Will, man, thank you very much for being on the show.
yeah,
Yeah.
for
yeah.
sure.
Talking with us. It's pigsquad.com, rostcitygames.com.
Mhm.
Those are any other places we should plug?
Twitter for Pig Squad is Pig Squad, and for Rose City Games, it's Rose City Games. And we have Instagram with both of those, but with PDX at the end of them.
You guys have great Instagram stories.
Which
they
one?
When-
which account?
PAX was just like a ride. Like it was yours, it was Marlowe's, it was everyone's. Just kind of like, oh my god, game set come out tomorrow, and then just like you guys were speaking Emery's, and I don't know, it was like a really fun adventure to follow your like PAX experience. And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, you guys had like almost a story going of just like one more day, like we're almost dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's day 3 of the convention. I just want to go home.
Yeah,
But
it's interesting. Indies are well, a lot of them are very accessible in that way. It's so fun to follow. Ooblets is one of my favorite crews to follow around as they're tweeting about, you know, buggy gifts or any of those kinds of things. Hopefully we'll find a good place with the next game that I'm leading right now to tweet a lot of buggy gifs because they're real funny.
Awesome. Well, Will, thanks again so much for being on the show. Again, guys, that's The World Next Door. You can get it on Steam and Switch. Go out, buy it. 2 of us at this table, well, 3 of us, I guess, at this table approve of this game very highly. Aaron, you need to go buy this game for your console. Yeah.
I know.
So
I
I
will.
want to thank you guys all for being on the couch tonight. And I totally lost my little outro script here, so I'm just going to make it up. So, what do I say, guys?
Pigsquad.com.
Pigsquad.com. You can find us on
Rose City
Twitter.
Games.
You can find us on Twitter at Twitbook, Instaface, and Gramter at Couch Co-op Shows, all one word.
No, I haven't.
And just you know, I'm sorry the Twitch stream is not the greatest tonight, guys. I will look into that. I don't know why it's different. How many people do we have? Anybody?
Four.
I don't know.
It's
4
been-
people.
4.
Yeah.
That's why we don't care. What
Whoa,
else?
that was
Oh,
4 Loco, dude.
Hey, one thing I forgot to mention at the top of the show, rockheartclothing.com, our 15% promo code is still good till the middle of May. So if you go use the promo code CouchCoop, CouchCoop, basically couch co-op, no hyphen. If you use that, you'll get 15% off your order, rockheartclothing.com. What else we got, guys? I don't know. I think that's it. For Couch Co-op, I'm Ian, reminding you to please be excellent to each other.
Wild Stallions.